on township website. Let's rubber pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I remain standing for military here abroad, and also for Vern. Thank you. Vern was an officer in the police department. I know Sam knows him, I don't know if Adam knows him, but well, if you know, he was, for him, 25 years, 30 years? I don't know. 38 years. I mean, he was here. I knew him. He took my kid's blood a couple times. He spoke his mind. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, God.
He was good. He was good. He passed away Thursday? Thursday.
All right, I'll call roll. Mayor Huber.
Here.
Deputy Mayor DuBois.
Here.
Committeeman Capides.
Here.
Committeewoman Stampoulis.
Here.
Committeewoman Vasallo.
Here.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Well, thank you.
Erica brought this up a while ago that she'd like to discuss things before we go out on the podium. And that's why we're doing this. We're going to try it and see how it goes. If everything works out, we'll keep it going all year.
She, meaning bringing back the workshops.
Yeah, workshop.
Okay.
She asked for the,
Okay.
she had talked about it last year. Right, Erica?
Yeah, I remember prior, I was
Yeah.
running the first time coming to those, I thought they were good. At the
Yeah.
firehouse,
Right.
you guys used to have them.
So can you just walk me through the purpose of the workshop session, and because this is new to me as well, so and the reasoning behind it, and then what we hope to accomplish and prior to our first public meeting?
In other words, we discuss anything, like administration report. He's gonna come, go over it. There's something that stands out in your mind, say, well, maybe we should check on this. I mean, there's a couple things I have that I want the police to check on,
Okay.
and a couple of departments to check on that I put on my phone already.
So if we rectify those things during this workshop session, are we sure to bring those things up
You can bring
at
it
the
up,
public
yeah.
meeting again?
You
So,
can.
okay.
You can bring it up, and if not, you just say, you know, if they answer your questions, then I really get your answer.
Right.
Then it's fine, you know, it's fine, and nobody says anything at the public meeting. Then we have the meeting, we vote on what we have to vote on, and that's it.
Okay.
All right?
While we're on the subject of this meeting, I mean, I guess for here is for this, today is fine, but would you consider for the future, putting it out there where there's a little bit more room?
We go there, we can go to the firehouse, wherever you want. We used to have it at the firehouse years
Right.
ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to go to those.
You know, it's up, you know, we'll see how it works. If more people start, if more people come, it's tight cords right now, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
All right?
Just on the note,
Yeah.
we used to do it at the firehouse as opposed to here because court, we used to have court, evening court sessions. So we haven't had those in a while, which is why we can do it, as you suggest, out there, or we can do it in here. And if I may, Mayor, just, you know, we will make this work. The department heads and myself and the clerk will do our best to make this work. If there's, you know, we tried to lay out the format of the agenda. We discussed it with the mayor, you know, department by department. Under each department, we're gonna try and list the ordinances and resolutions associated with that department for the meeting the next day, and try and anticipate for the following meeting. And then discussion action items, those are things that will evolve perhaps either into a resolution or an ordinance, or just require your action or your guidance or your direction for us. And then the department heads all received an email from me explaining how this process will work, so they can forecast the next meeting and the meeting ahead by way of any ordinances and resolutions, anything that needs action for the agenda. So if you have any suggestions for us, please let me know, and we will work to modify the agenda.
Well, I like Billy being here instead of Cook. Cook or talk for a half hour.
I'll be sure.
Billy, you got
I
it
promise.
right away. Okay, first up is, yep,
Okay, so I will dovetail. Thank you, Mayor. Administration, we have two ordinances for tomorrow. The first one is the, I'm sorry, thank you, two resolutions. The first one is the Bergen County Schools of Tech with our IT shared service agreement. That had been discussed in a number of executive sessions previously. I also emailed you all. I did meet with, I had my annual meeting with Bergen Tech's shared services coordinator. We are gonna renew at, or he gave us a renewal at a reduction in rate, no reduction in service. I explained to him how we've been moving to the cloud, the services have changed, our demands have changed, and you know, they were reluctant, but they understood. And so he went back that day, spoke to his supervisor, and came back to me as quickly as I let you all know. So I recommend renewing the contract. I think it's a great savings there.
Excuse me, Ziad, I'm sorry, just so everyone knows, I have to abstain on this vote when we get there, because I'm employed by Bergen County, so I'm gonna have to abstain.
No problem.
Any questions for me on that?
No. Could've got more money back.
Tried.
So,
Did the best I could.
no, I have no problem with that.
The next one is PACO. That is an annual resolution that we do to appoint our compliance officer, which is Mr. Mardini over there. And that's on the agenda. We have to send that to the feds, is it? Or
Yeah, we send it to the state, yeah.
to the state? Any questions on that? It's more of a routine matter.
Don't send me to the Fed.
Yeah. Sounds scary.
What'd you do?
It's scary.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll move on to my discussion and action items. The first item is the residential energy aggregation program. To give you some background, in June, to remind you, in June of 2017, we did an auction on it. We've done two things. We've done the residential side, and we've done the municipal side. The municipal side was successful. We were able to save about $70,000 in our gas and electric, which is fantastic. This is for the residential program. We did the auction in June 2017, carrying on a program that had been put in place several years before with Mayor Barnett. And the auction had gone off a couple times. It was not really the rates that they had wanted. They delayed it. June, same thing. We got a smaller than expected savings. I think it would have amounted to $70 a household or so for the year. My recommendation, I think you all concurred, was it wasn't worth the headache of going through that. There's another company, a competing company, that says they can do better. It costs us nothing to try to do these auctions. They asked, it's called CUC, they are affiliated and, not affiliated, I'm sorry, they are sanctioned and compliant with all the BPU regulations concerning residential energy aggregation, so we would do that thing. However, it would require a new ordinance. It has to be adopted by ordinance. The last company was adopted by ordinance, so this would need a new ordinance, which they provide. Mr. Dowd would review it for legal completeness and ensure we're in good shape. But with your okay, we would introduce that ordinance, it would then get adopted, and then we can start the process with that company. I don't want to have them go through all that if you guys aren't willing to try it.
No,
Like I
It's
said,
worth the shot.
if you can save money I'll save money. Okay, I mean, you gotta save money. Anybody that says they don't wanna save money is wrong. I think.
the last company is, just so you know, it was CIMEC, also known as EMEX. The new company is CUC, Consolidated Utilities Corporation or something like that. But I'll send you more information in the coming weeks. Just wanted to feel you out on that. Any questions? Okay. The next, municipal building restructuring renovations. This one's a bit of a heavier lift here. In other towns, so we've got issues with the annex. Obviously, it's an old building. It's got storage issues. It's got layout issues. And what I'm proposing is something similar to what is in other towns. For example, New Providence, where you have a giant window to receive the public. Right now, the finance offices are split up. You've got the tax collector downstairs, you have the tax assessor on one side, and you have the finance operations on the other side. My thought is that we could put all of finance together in one big shared space. That would be where the administration offices are right now. It would require a little bit of conceptualization, and we would, with your okay, get an architect and go down that road to get a better visual. But think the window that's there right now being much larger, the door being shifted off to where the mailboxes are, and that window is a much larger counter where multiple people can serve the public, and the walls that are in the administration offices would be knocked out, and in there you would have the tax collector, the tax assessor, the CFO, and all of those finance operations working out of there. The individuals, the employees that are there would be cross-trained to do what the other person can do. So for example, this year we saw with tax collector, and we had individuals from the finance office going downstairs, people from the administration office going across the hall. This would enable them to all work a bit more easily, cross-functional, cross-training, and hopefully alleviate some of the pressures on staffing. It would also create a more of a welcoming experience, I think, for the public. And then the administration offices would move upstairs to where the assessor is located. And then the annex would come over here. We would have the tax collector's office be the construction office where Maggie and Denise are. So that would be opened up as a counter for the for construction. And then the engineering and zoning would be upstairs where finance is currently located.
Or whatever with the annex building.
And then the annex building we can demolish, and we can.
Hey, more demolition? You get a hard hat again?
Exactly.
Eric's ready to get
I'm ready to go.
The thought is that this would enable us to take steps in the direction of eventually, you know, we're looking to have the DPW building moved to Mount View. We could get a head start on some of this. We would save in terms of having right now 2 buildings that we have to heat and provide electric for. The storage over there is, again, it's out of control.
What storage is over there?
You've got the attic upstairs, and the basement isn't used for anything because of flooding concerns, but
What's
the
in
upstairs.
the attic?
In the attic are
What are
all
you saying?
plans.
Yeah, I know, I
Yeah,
kinda
plans
do.
and permits.
I had a dream about this the other day.
So
Okay.
where would those storage containers go if we're not gonna be using that building?
Well, we would have storage in the basement down here. We have plenty of room downstairs for storage.
Which is also a flood area.
Hasn't flooded, and we have no, I mean, Sam, I'll defer to you. We don't have any concerns about flooding.
No, last
there.
time it flooded was during
Floyd.
Hurricane.
Andrew.
No.
Andrew.
Floyd.
Floyd.
Floyd, thank you. And after Floyd,
Thinking about
we
that.
did do some work to flood-proof the building. We added those staircases on both sides of the building, and I don't think we flooded since.
We really haven't had anything substantial since then. I mean, it used to flood, start raining, and it used to flood. I mean,
Yeah, we
over
took care
here.
of the area where the water was getting into the building, and basically with the 2 side entrances, and we took care of that by adding the staircases.
We're also, the construction office is also doing a lot of work. Maggie and Denise do scanning of all the records after hours. They're digitizing all the records themselves instead of paying an outfit to do that as well.
That's good.
So the goal is to go paperless, reduce some of that. You know, right now, I think what I'm asking for is the ability to do feasibility and conceptualization plans for you guys to take it to the next step, to see if it's feasible.
It's cost effective.
See if it's cost effective, engage the architects like Cornerstone, who we've used for the Chisholm and for the pool. Otherwise, we leave it as is, but I think that we'd drive a lot more operational efficiency from that. And, you know, I think it takes the town to the next step here.
Please work your prices from the architect, tell him your ideas, and see what he says. I
Okay.
know there was a plan at one time to, Ed had a plan one time,
Yeah.
to
Whenever
go
we see
this
it.
way
Right.
and take the library, I think, and move over here and get that whole thing.
That's part of that's the next phase. So you know, the first phase is let's get those over here. The next phase would be that where we would move police and the court across the street with the library. That would give them the flexibility as they're expanding, give us more room downstairs. And again, you know, I think we got to take it step by step. If we come up with a big plan to take that down, build this annex, do all this all at once, it's going to be cost prohibitive. But
Yeah.
if we take small steps.
But the only thing is, I don't wanna say the first phase,
Right.
and all of a sudden have to start doing, do double work.
Right.
We own the Hershey building, whichever was the smart move when they bought it. I'm sure that it would, that it has to be worth to the town something, you know, I mean,
Right.
we could get something for it. So we'll get the plans, but also expand, see about the expansion over there.
Sure.
See what happens.
Okay. And for way of knowledge here, and it'll go into another conversation. You know, we've got a lot of issues with the court as is. I mean, Lieutenant Siri could say security is not ideal. You know, they're doing the best with that.
Oh, yeah.
It's inundated up here. If you come and you see the court, how it runs, they do a fantastic job with it. But it's hard to keep accountability and security.
So we gotta move a prisoner from
Yeah,
downstairs to.
up there, yeah.
Up to the-
Oh, no, you're right.
you know,
And then you have the prosecutor's office. He is not safe at all. You know, the prosecutor is sitting in the lunchroom right next to all the crowded defendants, and the public defender is in a shared space. right next door. I mean, there's a lot of concerns, and I want us to be forward-thinking about these, so that way we're not bursting at the seams at a point where it's too late or too urgent.
Okay.
So,
Then we get an architect on board and see what they say.
okay,
Get the good prices. We'll go, I would get prices first, so you know, give me your idea.
sure, okay. Anything else on that? All right, the next item, jitney rates. A memo was sent to you. I asked Mary Ellen to give me a synopsis and a background on that. She's our jitney coordinator. I think she did a great job of summarizing and giving some history on that. Just to give you some additional information, the non-resident parking fee is not charged, hasn't been charged in a very long time. If you look at the non-resident revenue that's derived, we only have about 3 non-residents even using it. So my suggestions based on that are to get rid of the annual and quarterly rates. Right now we've got, as you can see there, $600 annual, you got $150 quarterly. I think it's better to do away with that. Very few people pay annually. It's a large chunk of change for some people to pay $600 annually. So they're paying monthly anyways, or they're paying quarterly. And then you have the case where some people pay annually or pay quarterly and then they ask for a refund because maybe they injured themselves, they broke a foot, they're not commuting into work, they're teleworking, summer schedules. So then you end up having to go through the refund process. My suggestion is to go to a monthly, change the ordinance to just go to a monthly rate. Makes it easier. You want to pay more, you could get a discount. If you prepay annually, we'll give you a 5% discount. Right now, that comes out to be, though, you're paying $50 a month. My suggestion is that we increase that. There hasn't been an increase, as you can see, since 2006 or 2005. We end up in a situation where now, 10 years, 11 years later, costs are going up, as you can see from the chart, but the revenue is not meeting that. It's about the same number of people every month coming in, but the money is not meeting the expenditures. So my suggestion would be take that up to from $50 to $60 a month. That's a $10 a month increase. And that comes out to be $720 for the year. And if they prepay at a 5% discount, we'll make it $680. In either case, we'll see an increase in revenue. It won't break us even right up front, but for the first year, we don't want to hurt the residents, the users, too quickly. So it would be this modest increase now, and then every year incorporate a slight increase to bring us to the point where we're meeting expenditures. And then we want to go to simply online-only payments, or because right now a lot of people pay cash or check to the driver. We haven't had necessarily any issues that we're aware of, but we want to prevent any issues. It also makes it easier from a bookkeeping perspective, like we did with the alarms and the police. It's so much easier when the payments are done online. So those are my proposals to you based on this report. If you're okay with that, I would ask Mr. Dowd to draft up the ordinance to amend our current jitney ordinance, so that way we go from, again, 50 to 60, to eliminate the annual and the quarterly, to make it a monthly rate of $60 with a 5% prepayment discount.
Do we ever check to make sure that they're paying? I mean, I've taken a jitney home and I give $3 to the driver. You know, he drops me off on Morris Avenue when I walk up. But do we ever check the car? There's a lot of cars over there.
So
I mean, do we have stickers or?
No, so I apologize. I left that out. I should have expanded on that. There used to be parking tags. That has since been done away with, because the only people that pay the parking tag are the non-residents. But we haven't had them use that because there's been mostly 0 to 3. So this would actually, and I apologize, we would have a non-resident fee. We would charge them an extra $5 a month for non-residents. So that way you have non-resident fee, which would roll in rather than have a separate parking and jitney fee. That just means the police has to check the hang tags, which it's an unnecessary burden. Just roll it into the permit fee for using the jitney, and it makes it easier on the driver. So I apologize. It would be a $60 a month. No, thank you. $60 a month resident, $65 a month non-resident.
Do you still have their officer that he's second class or what? I mean, this like he goes around checking it. I want to make sure. I don't know if we still have them. Okay.
So is that okay? Is that an acceptable proposal?
I think so.
And this would be for 2019.
Okay.
It wouldn't be for 2018. It's already started. We don't want people budget. People talk to their employers. A lot of people expense this with their companies anyway, so we don't want to hit them for this year. So this gives us enough time where we can introduce, adopt the ordinance, and provide ample notice for 2019.
I put it on their cars right there. You know,
Give them a flyer.
A flyer or something like that, so they know that next year they're gonna be hit, and then we can do it again in the end of August, and then end of the year.
Okay.
All right, I mean,
Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
I have no problem.
Okay. That's all I have under administration, Mayor.
No, okay.
Oh, yes, it's real big now, so I want everybody to pay attention to this. Temple Shari Shalom
sparkling
is
shirt.
changing their dates for their raffle license.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's nothing. All right. Finance.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say I'm sorry about the delay in the bill list. Everybody saw it by now, but I did send it a couple hours ago, so, but hopefully we'll never have that happen again. So number one, BSR was also distributed, hopefully on Saturday, everybody got that. They all saw that there's about $1.3 million. There should be maybe about $200,000 of usage, which has to do with payroll, utilities, and other bills that are going to be charged against that, and there's going to be some other items. So it's going to hopefully come down to 1.1, maybe even $1 million, and that's just a rough guesstimate because you never know exactly what's going to happen at that point in time. So that's actually really, really, really good news. And the last item is dates. As everybody saw in my very late email a couple hours ago maybe, we saw that we're now instituting something brand new, something called FAST, which has to do with the new budget process. It's now going to incorporate what they call the user-friendly budget, which we used to have, which is now going to go bye-bye. The annual debt statement, the annual financial statements are now going to be combined into this new process along with the new budget. The actual budget is also going to be included in that. They have no training for this yet. Hopefully they're going to launch it hopefully in the end of this week. So much more than that, I really don't know what to tell you. Hopefully it's going to be Excel driven. Everything is going to be on Excel, and from there it's going to be distributed. So the rest, I'll keep everybody abreast. The dates, just be mindful of those dates. The dates, of course, the two critical dates are going to be the February 20th and April 20th and the March 16th. Also, there in the local finance notice, they did state ahead of time that whatever we use for 2017 in terms of estimating for state aid, they said continue to use it for state for 2018. Now the governor can change that in a click of a finger, as everybody knows, and then we could either be happy. In 2009 we got a rude awakening, but ever since 2009 we've been doing good so far. So that's it for me.
Two things on that. Just a slight amendment. So those are the state deadlines. Based off of those deadlines, we're shooting for a March 13th introduction of our budget. Okay, so it's right around the corner. Adoption is for April 24th. So we've gone through just about the first round budget hearings with nearly all the departments. There's I think maybe one or two. We've gotten those requests in. Michael and I will be tabulating those, reviewing those. Some highlights, obviously, $450,000 increase in terms of our recycling costs for the contract. We have what's coming up, we'll discuss later, a major payment potentially for a tax appeal. That's the Stop and Shop, Arc of Springfield. And other than that, really nothing too major. The payments, our chapter 78, our payments are going up.
Yes.
So we've got an increase there. Anything else significant?
I literally just got the PFRS and PERS numbers today. They're just sitting on my desk right now. I haven't even opened up. And the big unknown, of course, is going to be RVSA, and I'll keep everybody informed as soon as I get some finality on that one too.
Well, Sam and I are going over to that meeting this month to straighten that out.
Hearing, is it a hearing for us?
It's a hearing, but it's, I don't know if you gotta go, Kurt, we'll find out.
I don't know if it's a hearing or just a meeting.
The meeting, Mike said it was a meeting.
Right.
So, and it's, they turned around 190,000 or something like that. What else did they want from us? Or they
This is
want
news to me.
I think it's about 1,000. I mean, you know, we're not I'll find out when that meeting is and let you know ahead of time.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going no matter when it is, and Sam said he would go, and I'll see if we can do it. Yes, that night.
Can I give you a quick update on that?
Sure.
A very brief update, because I don't have a lot of information substantively, but I did speak with their attorney, introduced myself, because I'm aware of the issue, and I know that it's an ongoing issue. He indicated that, one, that he'd be happy for both you and our representative to attend, as well as our engineer. And also that they're willing to put it off a month, so we can kind of gear up a little bit.
Okay, I mean, I just sort of found out about it. I called you, when Mike called me. I called you?
You didn't tell me.
I didn't? I don't know, Mike called me
Mike Perchie?
in December, sometime. He
Oh,
called me
that's
and
right.
They wanted us to
Now I
go in
remember him.
December, and they gave us a 2-day notice.
2 days
We
up.
said,
And I said,
I remember first.
it's the first I heard about it. And he
Yeah.
said, he goes, well, you know, we got, I said, nobody can go. I said, I can't get off. No, people just can't take off from work and that's it. So, but he got him to put it off.
Yeah, this was from late Friday afternoon, so this is very fresh,
Well,
fresh news.
Supposedly, our lawyer last year dropped the ball on it. That's what I was told by Mike, by everybody, and he never called back. I don't know. That's what I was told. But we'll take care of it this year. All right?
On the budget, anything else? And then tomorrow there will be a supplement to the bill list.
December 14th.
There will be a supplement to the bill list tomorrow for invoices. So Michael will send out an amendment to that. Those are for attorney invoices, if there's any questions.
I haven't submitted one yet.
Not yours. Not yours.
Back to this, we have to go over some, Greg and I have to go over something. Back to this.
Tax, I'll just briefly, our tax collector is back. She came in today. She will provide reports for February, her monthly report starting February, and then a quarterly in March or April. So we'll get back to that. And then emergency management. Unless you want them regularly coming, they traditionally didn't come to workshop meetings unless they were needed or there were questions or issues. I'd be happy to tell them to come, but I don't think there is unless.
No, unless there's a problem.
Any questions on their report?
No. I have none. I'm sorry, Ann.
Yeah, that was last.
Dan, you got anything or?
Nothing.
Okay. Police report.
Chief apologizes, he got delayed on the flight.
Good. I tried it that way. No.
Somebody's not
I
allowed to go
have his
anywhere.
report here, if you have any questions on it, I'll do my best to answer it. We've been dealing with a lot of weather-related issues the last week, a lot of water main breaks, type of stuff.
I know we have a resolution to hire a crossing guard. How much aggravation? I've gotten some phone calls about, I know you changed your pattern, which you had to, because we don't have enough crossing guards.
Yeah, I believe they got rid of some posts, they moved some stuff around.
Yeah, but everybody, all parents were notified from what I understand, in St. James and all the other
I
schools.
believe they were notified.
I mean, that's one,
I believe what they did is they went out and they actually checked the post, and
yes,
they did, a couple of them really had no kids. I know the one in Sandmeyer, there's an officer right
a block away or half a block or
block
something like
away.
that.
I know a lot of people park across the street there, so I know that one might be a tough one, but
No,
It's a hard situation.
it's
so
it's not an easy job to fill.
Right,
You know, when we go through this, in my career, this is not the first time. When I first started, we were on school posts, the police officers all the time, 'cause the weather, the elderly people, it's not an easy job to get someone an hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the middle of the day. And a lot of them are a lot older now, they're starting to retire. We've been trying, we went everywhere, put everything out.
and we're giving them raises,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's,
right?
I mean, from talking to the
We
chief,
all were.
from talking to the chief in special services, we're not the only town having this
No,
shortage
this is
also.
not, there's a lot of towns in the same situation.
They're all trying to poach from each other.
By the time I
Yeah,
get
they
a job,
poach, yeah,
Sounds like a game show.
that's what it is.
Coach
Yeah,
or
they're really,
crossing guard.
there's
There is.
some towns that have a few applicants or withhold, they don't want other towns
don't want
finding
to
out.
go-
It's really, it's cutthroat because
Yeah.
there's such a shortage of
There's
crossing
survivor
guards.
Survivor Crossing Guard Island.
And then what it is, it's overtime, so when we're short guards,
Yeah.
we have to hold in, like, in December, we were holding off the entire midnight shift, we had to hold him to cover school posts. Just
You know
because.
that spot in Sandmeyer, right, you just mentioned, across the street, a lot of the parents park across the street there. I know that's a state law, that cars have to yield, correct, at that
They
crosswalk?
should.
Is there a way that we may be able to put during, like maybe an officer can put something there, or are you trying to ease people into going towards the officer to walk
I believe
across the
they're
street?
trying to ease people towards the
Okay.
officer.
Because that's still never gonna happen, right?
Uh,
So what I'm, it's just, I mean,
I understand.
so
Creatures
what
of
I'm,
habit.
right, so what I'm thinking is maybe we can put something there, you know, to yield, like a state law, you have to yield to
What about
pedestrians.
the blinking,
We have those
you see the blinking lights that they have on the
Yeah.
Right.
side?
We
I'm
have
not
those
saying we that
pedestrian
they're all
signs.
day
They're
long,
all
all
over.
night
It's all
long.
solar,
It doesn't
so
matter, cause I
Right,
see
it's
officers
solar.
still like in the morning with the
it's solar
sign.
light, I've
and
seen them.
it's-
And those signs,
People
Robbie will
miss
tell
that.
you,
They get run
Yeah.
over.
but they get run over multiple times a day.
Yeah.
It's scary.
I spend more time picking those
Yes,
signs
we all
up than
do.
they're
They
standing.
get,
Yeah.
they get.
I
Actually
believe
standing.
it.
And we used to have, years ago, we used to have the spring-loaded ones
Yeah,
that,
they
Yeah.
fly back up.
well, Ken switched over, the old superintendent, to save, to save some money, but in the long run, it just
No,
wasn't worth
they
it
get
because we
destroyed.
lose them and we spend that
So the
time down
spring-loaded
after.
one was better?
I'm sorry?
The spring-loaded one was
The
better?
spring-loaded ones go out and they're in one piece, and you stand them up, so if you hit them, they just flop back up and stay right there.
And how do they install those in the street? I won't
Well,
spend
we
much
take them
more
in
time
and
on
out, at the request of the PD, you just take
Yeah,
them
the
off
portable
our,
light.
yeah,
They
yeah,
are
you just
portable,
take
Yeah,
them.
the portable.
So I'm
Yep.
thinking right after that heavy
It has-
traffic hours, take it away. You know, I don't know, but I know parents are still gonna cross there,
How
so
big is
it's
the
just
distance? I'm trying to envision from the
How
spot
big
we're
is the
talking about
distance?
to the other one. And
Not
we've
that
sent
big.
letters out to parents already, trying to encourage them to go down to
believe
the other
school-
one,
The
or?
school did.
School
They
did
Yeah.
it way in advance.
You know, I just saw
I know
it
people are
today.
creatures of habit, it's hard to.
Now,
believe,
cars are
uh,
supposed to stop, but
Well,
you
that's
know how
true,
that
too.
goes,
I
right?
believe Lieutenant Rachel, at the request of the chief or the chief, they sent a notice to the schools. Each principal then sent out
They did, they
that
cascaded
letter
down.
and explained everything to the parents. And it was also posted on
I
the
know it's a tough
website.
adjustment, but
You know,
it's hard.
just the parents see me.
It's just a
after
difficult
school, so
situation.
they
No,
come
It's a
to-
difficult
one was gonna be
situation.
The other two posts were not really, I said the other two posts really didn't have any children.
Yeah.
All right, but what about, like, the rectangle sign with blinking? A lot of times that blinking, it's solar, I'm sure there's a switch on it, you switch it on, off, whatever it is.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the chief is looking into the solar crossing.
Signs.
We have,
Yeah, that's what I, you know.
he and I are working with the
Okay,
county, yeah,
right.
he and I are working with the county already
That's
on
good.
that. They are agreeing to allow us to do those, so it would be on crosswalks along Mountain Avenue.
Oh, good, okay,
All right,
all right, well, thank you.
but, I have something for the police. I talked to you about it the other day.
Are you snitching on
Uh,
Well, the stop sign we put up at the top of Tooker. You know, Tooker and
Right.
Dead End, whatever.
that? Right.
I got a few calls about it, so I parked up there. On the dead end, see what happens. I mean, I went through it, I'll admit
He was in
We've
disguise.
been out there enforcing it.
it. All right, but the thing is, there's no lines on the ground. And I think you have to wait till it's warm enough to do that. You can't do it when it's cold, real cold. These you couldn't years ago.
Stop lines.
Tooker and
Stop sign at Tooker in the dead end, and
Yeah, didn't we, well, I don't know if that was painted yet, but I had JWH, I gave him permission to move forward with painting the lines, and I met Rachel out there, and I think Ryan,
in
so.
a suggestion, it was only me, I got a few calls about it.
Those are gonna be
People-
painted,
Right.
it's just that the weather wasn't right.
I know, it's too cold or whatever, but can we take the stop signs down until we can paint it? Because I just don't, people are going halfway through jamming on the brakes and they're doing everything else. And I looked the other day, and there's nothing on it, there's a faded line if you're coming down Tooker, toward the dead end. I know that.
I can take them down, but I usually take stop signs down and put them up at the request of the PD.
Oh, yeah, I know, that's what I'm asking. I mean, talk to Rachel and see what
I'll
he
find
says.
out, I can find out,
'Cause it's-
I don't know, once you establish that, you take it down, God forbid
Yeah.
it's an accident,
Right,
I
maybe,
mean,
maybe
I believe
not.
the guys are using a lot of common sense that are stopping the people, educating them, you know what I mean? So most of them are probably residents, it's something new. I know on Evergreen, when they put one in the middle street years ago, it was the same thing.
Rob, LT, to get the formal striping is a bit different. They do the thermal, they do all that kind of sand stuff. What about just temporary, like the old-fashioned spray paint markings? Because they do that with yellow lines and elsewhere to delineate where a permanent line will go. Can we get that done on a temporary basis? Just look into it.
There's two lines on this side. if I recall correctly,
There's a
I saw
line,
two
yes,
lines.
well, there's a line coming out of Bryant. If you're coming from the
Yes,
dead end,
yeah.
there's a white
This
bar
one right
line
here.
and then the yellow line. But I don't believe there's the other two. They could be, and I haven't been up there.
There's one, but not two. There's, on the, if you're coming down from,
Right there.
like the short block right there, I don't know.
Yes, well,
The dead
there's,
end?
there's actually a
There's not-
line in here.
there isn't-
It's right up there.
Right
But
there.
there's no line on the other side. I looked,
Sign is.
there's no
Yeah,
line on
see
the
right
other
there?
side.
They have that one bar line there, and we were gonna add one here
And one on the other
and
side.
one by the telephone pole. And then there was some discussion about the yellow line, that it was too close on one side, but again, we were gonna leave that up to the PD. And we were gonna blacken
I'll
that
talk
out
to
and
Lieutenant
widen
Rachel
it.
tomorrow about it.
Okay, you know, see what you can do, Billy. I mean, I don't, you know. Thank you.
Anything else?
Well,
I'll give him
you wanna go?
Just having a good time here.
Well, you're on duty, so. Fire.
I'll make it simple. We just moved over to the new radio system. Working out the bugs, but it seems to be moving along. We're ready to transition over our radios to DPW. We have a box full of mobile and portable radios for you. And they should be all programmed for just DPW on that one fire ground. You also see a resolution through some talks with the county. I was able to get them to send two of our members to Texas teach training. It's about $10,000 worth of training that two of our members, it will be no cost to the township at all. So they're going to fly out, I believe, last week of January, and they'll be out there for a week.
Working with us.
And then we're just moving along. It's been a busy couple of weeks. We had another substantial fire with a loss at Dr. Weissman's office, and just looking to move forward with. There's the other resolution. We are moving forward with another fireman, and talked with the administrator to boost our ranks to get back what we had lost over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think we need to look at staffing with the fire. And I know we're looking at the budget going forward, but I know we're still short-staffed even with the person we're bringing on. So I think that's something we need to start discussing and try to figure out what we might be able to do to help with that.
So what?
I thought of something. You might think I'm nuts. You know, people are gonna hate me when I talk about it. Right now, first aid pays people to cover it during the day, am I correct?
They do, correct.
Whatever we give them, I don't know.
We give them about 90,000 a year.
I figured it was, you know, I know it was up there.
Right, Michael, 90?
99,000.
How much?
99,000.
9,000. Okay, the thing is, and this is only me thinking, what would it be to get, say, 2 more men on days to the 99,000? I know it's a lot more than that after a while, you know, with the pays and all that stuff. And I'd like you two to sit down and talk about it. To get an ambulance at the firehouse. They go out on the first responders or whatever. You guys are first responders anyway. You got the patches and all that other stuff. So you have all the credentials. If we save 90,000 without giving it them, because they, if you remember correctly, when we talked about it, they bill now. If I get, something happens to me and take me, they take what the hospitalization takes. Right?
If you're out of town and have insurance.
No, if I'm in town, they will take me from here, just say I have a heart attack now. They'll take me to the hospital, and whatever my insurance pays, that's what they accept.
I don't believe they do it for residents. They only do it for non-residents.
No, from what I understand, I thought it was, because they weren't getting anything at one time. And we said, are you kidding me?
Right.
Hospitalization doesn't cost you anything. You know, in other words, sometimes Linda or her husband, it doesn't cost her anything. But out of town, they're going to say, well, this is a $200 cost, but I get only $100 back from hospitalization. We're not charging Linda anything. Linda doesn't even see anything. Nothing happens. I thought the resident...
I don't think that, from what they've told me, and I've talked to them, and they put out a letter, they only do it for non-residents. I'll double check that.
So,
They only do it for non-residents.
But get together and see, other towns have done it, and I don't...
We've talked about it.
Cranford runs a,
Does it? I don't know.
a
Oh, yes, they do.
program, and they bill, and the money goes back into the township.
Yeah.
Cranford does it, Union does it, Hillside does it, Roselle does it.
I mean, if we
It's
could
a way
say,
of fire service.
if we, like I'm just saying, if they could live off of what they get from the hospitalization. I don't know how much it is, I have no idea, do you know, Michael? You
I
don't?
know, I just made a note for myself too, I'll check with the crew and Liz.
And this way, you can, if that's $90,000, we can take back into us, and we can hire another one, say 2 firemen, and we can build that up and start building
I think we need to
hospitalization.
start-
Residents are supposed to pay whatever hospitalization pays. If you're out of town, you come from Maplewood or something like that, you would pay whatever the cost is, I have no idea. Yeah, I know Maplewood does it, I mean, just check it out, I mean.
Cranford got a very good program, I can talk to
My,
their chief.
my biggest concern is just, I know we're short-staffed with fire, and as all of these fantastic businesses are popping up on 22 and everything, concerns me that we're short-staffed and we're having all these new businesses and new buildings, and I'm just, a
That's
little
right.
fearful that it could not be a good situation, so I wanna try to look into it and see what we can do.
We
to try
are
to,
in the budget draft process. We're doing a couple different scenarios. So the chief and I and Captain Mastroni, we are putting together a budget that is assuming everything is the same. Another budget that would increase it gradually by 2, and another one which would increase it by 2. I'm sorry, the same. However, it would actually account for overtime to the level of staffing that is what's necessary.
okay.
So, assuming,
good to hear.
yeah, to
So we
think
can
so, let's say maybe it's cheaper with overtime than it is with staffing, so we're looking at it that way. We're also gonna look at it with 2, and we're looking at it
Try to
with,
split.
right.
Okay.
And, so we're looking at different scenarios, so what we first wanna do is get a first budget draft for everything, look at
I
where we
wasn't sure if today was the
stand.
day to bring it up, because we're starting with the budget, so that's the only reason I
Yeah,
asked
no,
that.
I mean, you guys can talk about it whenever, I just wanna give you the numbers, so I thought, once we get that, we'll present to you the whole budget, with all the departments and the different scenarios,
Yeah.
cause that's not the only department, there's a couple other departments where we're gonna have some flexible scenarios for you, where we're gonna need your guidance, Michael and I, and the departments will need your guidance on what you wanna pick. So, once we go from there, you tell us
That sounds
what's palatable, what can be done. So that's the,
I'm just trying to figure out where we could pay it, I mean.
I have a
yeah,
quick question.
because,
Can you just explain, Chief Pombo, the difference between overtime for tour coverage and recall?
So tour coverage is when the tours are running short-handed, versus recall is, for instance, I don't have enough personnel at the call, so I'm recalling off-duty members to come on in.
That's
So
all
there's a
overtime.
big difference, yeah, so it's
Okay.
overtime as well. It's a double-edged sword, the overtime is kind of a fix, however, when you start to tax the firemen working
Yeah, how does that
countless
tax
hours,
the actual
being
personnel?
exposed to, 60-hour work weeks, we're doing EMS, guys are getting sick, they're getting tired. Yes, there's a fix down the, it's a temporary Band-Aid, but it does fall in the hands of that we are tremendously understaffed, and it's gotten to the point where Springfield's grown so much that we can't keep up. And it's showing on the members that,
And that's my concern, just that we're growing a lot, which is great, but we have to factor that in as well. And I know there's a cost, obviously, I don't know the
Absolutely.
numbers, but I'm glad that we're looking into it, so we can kind
We've
of
been
say.
working on kind of a plan to skin the cat multiple ways, but hopefully right in the middle is where we can go.
I just wanna make sure everything's taken care of. Once summer starts going, and you're gonna calls over there with construction.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna be over there every day and all that other stuff. And once it gets done, I wanna make sure we have enough to protect the people over there.
you mentioned the report, you picked it on an item in the report. If you notice, the report format is different also. I started with the fire department, picking on them. But I figured that was a good place to start. They've got a lot of good data there. I'm trying to revamp all the departmental reports so they're a bit more informative, they're a bit more data-driven. Chief did a great job, I think, with this report. If there's any feedback on any of the reports, if it's just too much narration, too much just anecdotal stuff, it really isn't that informative. I want to make sure that you guys can look at it and make good policy decisions based on that. I don't know if that accomplished that with this fire department report. And then look at the other reports, the next one's going to be police. and then DPW changing those up, and then rec after that. So let me know what is better for you. And on the issue with the first aid squad, Mayor, excellent idea. I just need to caution you all of the, you know, the repercussions. You're taking away $99,000 from them. It's a wonderful idea, but at the end of the day, you as a township committee are the ones who are going to eat that and bear the brunt for that. And they're going to come to you. A lot of the first aid residents, a lot of first aid members are also residents. So I just want to caution you that it needs to be a diplomatic, I think, on the township committee end, a diplomatic outreach too. Because if the chief does this, it's going to look a bit antagonistic. For some of us who have been here for a while too, and know the relationship that used to exist with previous levels of leadership, there was some fear and animosity that it was one trying to eat the other up. And so just want to caution you about that.
I'm just glad we're looking at numbers so we can kind of think of a reasonable way. So I definitely think we have to address it, but obviously we need to see numbers to see what we can do.
But all right, Michael, do you do the who does the billing for first aid?
Not us.
Not us.
You don't have any.
We have nothing.
In other words, we give them money, and that's it.
That's an annual grant we give them, and nothing more.
The only thing I'd just like to see how much they bring in for using the ambulance, you know, picking people up and taking all that stuff. I just want to get that so this way you can get an idea of what it is. I don't want to disband the first aid. First aid is very good.
They're fantastic.
I mean, I'm not, you know, I can't say anything. I mean, but I just want to. We're trying to get more people for the fire, and if they're there all day, if I have whatever it is, 2 extra guys in the firehouse, why don't I use them for that? I mean, that's what I'm looking at. That's my thing. Okay. I mean, now they will hate me. They'll get a call from my house and they'll say, forget it, let's go around and block it all the time.
So I have a question about, I know we're looking into hiring more staff, and we're obviously gonna do this hopefully one at a time. So you're short staffed, so if you add a firefighter, how do you infuse that one firefighter into the mix in terms of shifts? Because obviously, I guess it's gonna be uneven.
It will be uneven as we phase in, however, down the road, it's just gonna make a big difference where it makes a big difference in the big picture as well as when we pull up at, I'll give you an example of Dr. Weissman's fire, we pulled up with 3 firefighters.
Right.
No one's in the building. That fire rapidly advanced until our off-duty members came in Christmas Eve, 15, 16 minutes later. So when you have 4 people on scene, it does allow us to make an entry.
Can you explain how you
explain
that to me, how the numbers in and out?
So 2 in, go in, 2 personnel have to be outside.
Okay.
So with 3, it's not gonna happen. With a rescue, yes, we're gonna attempt a rescue. However, if if I pull up to that scene and there's no one inside, and I only have 3 firemen at the scene, we're not making entry. We're the only department staffed like this right now. Everyone else is staffed with a minimum of 5.
Did we ever go to, when you were on the committee, we talked about going to mountainside. Do we do a lot of mountainside stuff?
Not as much as we used to.
Because didn't we say after a while we were going to start charging them or doing, trying to get money back?
There was
we talked about it.
There was a feeling that so there's a mutual aid agreement that's been long-standing since 19. I can't recall.
70s, it's been a long time.
And there was a feeling that, and there was a concern that was the mutual aid agreement, or the use of that mutual aid agreement was very lopsided. That towns like Mountainside, for example, where they have a volunteer fire department, were relying heavily on towns like Westfield and Springfield, who immediately border them, who are paid departments. So we're shouldering the burden of having to respond to their calls when their volunteer firefighters could not during the day. So that was a big concern for us at that time. I think, Carlo, you and the administrator at the time, didn't you reach out to the administrator and chief there? And it was supposed to be a meeting, I remember, with Jim Gilday, fire chief of Westfield as well. And I believe you guys met.
I think even Director Roselle did at the time. And
this was more recent. This was in the last 2 years or so. There was follow-up. I believe it was Anthony just before, it was.
You were on the
I
committee.
think it was-
Yeah, we
I
were,
think
we
it
talked
was
about it when we were in
Anthony.
the firehouse, actually, was the last
Yeah.
time we were talking about
Anthony
that.
met with?
Yeah, it was
Who?
Anthony, Gilday, Debbie,
Debbie,
and
yeah.
you, and the fire chiefs
I thought so.
from those
I thought-
two towns were supposed to have a meeting.
I thought so.
Yeah.
We've had discussions, but not in the last 2 years.
Okay, well, maybe, I'm just wondering how we're doing with that, 'cause we used to go a lot.
No, I like I said, we've been understaffed, we've had 2 studies done,
Here we
both
go.
recommending the staffing levels as well. And right now,
2014.
we're getting slaughtered with manpower issues right now. We have two major illnesses going on in the fire department right now.
Yeah, we get a little flexibility with that, and like I said, all the new
This
stuff
was
over
in 2014. There was a meeting, Chief Sanford, I apologize.
Yeah, I
It
was gonna say,
it was just before you, so it was Chief Sanford, Chris Cotter, Westfield, a couple administrators, they met, Jim Debbie, and then it was a meeting around January 29th, 2014.
my birthday.
yeah, I remember them having the meeting. They kind of slowed down the pace. They were pulling us in way too
Yeah,
much
yeah.
on stuff that wasn't needed, and we pulled back and said, you're gonna have to take care of the problem, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Public Works.
Okay,
Good job on the roads, my kids were very upset to have to go back to school when their mother had off.
right, I
So I was gonna send them your way, so
usually
you
hear
can
that
explain
I
it.
did too good of a job, nobody wants to go back to school.
I enjoyed the day off without my kids, thank you very much.
So just a little bit about where we left off. So we did finish leaf season on January 1st, and I just always want to mention that leaf season consumes my entire department from November 1st to the 31st, and I usually have to put a restriction on vacation in order just to get this done. We did remove over 10,000 yards of leaves from the residential streets, and all the residential streets received 3 collections, followed by a spot pile collection, followed by the sweeper, which basically everybody got 5 pickups. The commercial areas in town they got one collection at the very end, and we pulled about 600 yards from those areas. These leaves all went up to the county site at no cost to the township, being the host town. So we saved approximately $25,000 in disposal fees.
Okay.
Immediately following leaf season, we set the department up for winter operations. We mounted all of our salt spreaders because the trucks that we use for leaves are the same trucks that we mount our salt spreaders on. So any event that we had with snow during leaf season, we have to break these trucks down. We have to pull the tailgates off, we have to mount the spreaders, we have to hook up the hydraulics, go out and salt the roads, and then when we're done, we have to take these trucks, convert them back over, and go right back to leaf season again. So, immediately following leaf season, we set the department up, we went over all the equipment. We just ordered 200 ton of rock salt that was delivered to the county dome that we share with them. Some good news for the rock salt, it went from $69 a ton to $49 a ton. We saved $4,000 on the first order.
Are we still giving the school some?
Yes, we are.
Or selling it, or giving it to them? I don't know.
I don't know. Michael?
We're not getting any money from the Board of Education.
I know, I mean, they open the gym for us, I mean, it's just, on weekends, so I
You know,
can't.
and I think I made it clear that, when they ask, for my assistance, it's always in the interest of safety. So I'm always gonna comply with them. If they ask for salt, I'm gonna bring it over.
Okay.
Just so you know, I did create an invoice for them last year for the salt they used. They used around $5,000 worth of salt. I have that, all that calculation in my office. If you want me,
I'll give it to Matt.
I can forward it to you, and good luck. And good luck. So again, we saved $4,000 on that first order. We use around.
Rob, I'm sorry, but hold on, Michael and Rob, they're joking, they're serious. Are you really building the school?
No, I'm not gonna build the school.
Okay.
No, we're not building the school.
All right, I don't want,
You're not building the school, we're just gonna keep it
No.
on the back burner.
I just keep track of it.
no, I know, I heard you guys saying you're gonna send the bill and good luck getting the money.
No.
I don't wanna go down that path
So I
because
don't work like
unless
that.
you guys are saying and agreeing to billing them,
Okay, no bill, right?
No bill.
Well,
No
what's
bill.
the pros and cons? Like, why wouldn't we wanna build them?
Because they come right back to us and say, okay, then you'll pay for every weekend that every school's open, and the schools are open every Saturday and Sunday from 9 in the morning to 9 at night, 10 at night, and they would,
And in
Yeah.
the evenings for all the, when they
For
practice
the-
too.
that's
for all
right,
the
every-
practice
There's a lot
classes.
of, you know,
Give and take.
cooperation and give and take, so we just have to be mindful, you know, we talk about much larger, big ticket items, that's a different story, not that 5,000 isn't a lot, but,
No, but
you know,
if
it's just a
it's-
decision that, you know, once you build them, you understand,
You
Go start.
so.
no, you're right.
Okay,
All right.
so I just keep track, that's all.
Yep.
Just so you know, on an average year, we use about 500 tons. So we had 3 minor snow events on December 9th, the 15th, and the 30th. All 3 of these storms were under 2 inches in accumulations. So just so everybody understands, we don't usually plow under 2 inches. If it's 2 inches and under, we don't plow, we can treat that with just salt. To give you some idea, on those 3 little storms, we use 64 tons of salt on those 3 little storms. January 4th storm was a little bit different. We received about 6 inches of snow. We kind of went into full plowing procedures. I did have the full crew in. We started plowing at around 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. Keeping the through streets and the main roads open, that's normally what we do for emergency services. Once the snow stops, then we move into our secondary roads and our cul-de-sacs and, you know, different areas. And then at the very end, we go into our industrial sections. We did have the town completely open and plowed by 9 a.m. Thursday evening, 6 hours after the storm ended. I did release the crew at that point to give them some R&R. I brought half the crew back Friday morning at 3 a.m., and that was in order to have all township buildings and all the school zones open for the start of the business day. And then once the full crew come in, then we moved out into our secondary crosswalks and school zones, parking lots and stuff like that. So, but pretty much we had everything done by Friday at the end of the business day. We didn't have to come in on Saturday for any overtime.
Good job.
Moving forward in January, just in between snowstorms, we'll be cleaning streets, catch basins. We started to collect Christmas trees. We'll be monitoring the roads for potholes. And again, this is the worst time of the year for potholes because of the plowing and salt. We'll begin to remove the holiday decorations, and weather permitting, we'll start cleaning parks and other properties.
Thank you.
Your tonnage grant awards, I'm under the impression that 2015 is just a typo, right?
No, it's not, because we're always 2 years,
We get it this year, but it's from 2
it's
years ago.
always 2 years in arrears, so just so you know, we already submitted 2016 in April of last year. We're working on 2017 now. And I guess now that you mentioned it, and Mr. Shahadi brought it up at the last meeting, Springfield did receive the highest tonnage grant out of the 21 towns in Union County. All right, so, and we should be seeing our Clean Communities grant sometime in the spring.
Good to know, thank you.
Good. Nothing else? Nothing.
Under discussion action items, is pool grounds improvements. Mr. Betcher, Mr. Lieb and I have gone out there, in between our, meetings on the pool house project, and, separately, there's been discussion about the containers. They come up every once in a while. We've got obviously we've got the new building coming online in the spring, and so Mr. Betcher, Mr. Lieb and I have been looking at it with a critical eye. What other improvements can we do? So if you look at Morrison Road, I pulled it up on the screen for you. Let's go over here. We want to first start off with upgrading this entrance. This does not look the way it does right now, actually. Part of this entranceway is not on our property. There's also a property developer who's building, what is it, commercial, Sam?
Commercial.
A commercial right there. So we got that. This gateway here. We also have this fencing. This fencing here is not utilized anymore. the parking lot is open almost all the time. We don't close it off. It's used for access to the ball fields, the jitney parking over there, and with the pool house coming online, it's gonna potentially be a full year facility for those 2 meeting and event spaces. So we don't think that there needs to be this fencing there anymore. We want to get rid of that and landscape it and fix it up a lot nicer. You get in a little closer. I can't do that with Google Maps now because they didn't drive in there. But right where you see that little rock wall, Rob, can you point? You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So this rock wall, we've got a lot of stone that was removed from the pool complex before the construction that can be reutilized there. We want to have a nice little planting on both sides. So get rid of this ugly fencing in the gate. Fix up the gateway with new signage, new plantings, and then Rob, could you